Hey there everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. Today's video is part of Simon Says Stamp's DieCember celebration, and if you're watching this on December 1st, there is a free gift offer for you. When you purchase $100 or more of DieCember release products, you'll get this fancy ornaments, embossing folder, and coordinating die set automatically added to your cart, which is a really great deal. This embossing folder and die set sells for $24.99, so that is a really great bargain to get that with your purchase. So that is your free gift offer, and while we're talking about DieCember, Simon Says Stamp is also hosting a blog party. So you can go over to the Simon Says Stamp blog and check out all of the many designers that are participating. I'll have a link to the Simon blog not only in the video description but also on my blog as well, so that you can find out more details about the party. But everybody is going to be sharing lots of inspiration using this DieCember collection. So I want to share with you what I made using the DieCember release. DieCember is so much fun because it's all about die cutting. All month long, Simon Says Stamp is celebrating the love of die cutting. And I enjoy that technique so much. So I was so excited to play with one of the new dies in the DieCember release called Snowflake Sensation. And I made not just one, but 2 cards to share with you, and the best part is that you get to create both cards by all of the die cutting that you do for one. So you get a 2-for-1 here, which is really fun. So I'm going to show you the die first, and then we'll work on the cards. So this is the Snowflake Sensation die set. It comes with this large piece and then 2 smaller corner elements that you can use to accent the larger die cut. I had one card idea in mind to start off with. That was the peace card. And that was what ended up sparking my second card with the snowflakes clustered together in the middle of my project. So I ended up creating 2 cards today from all of the die cutting. So to start, I die cut that Snowflake Sensation die from many different colors of cardstock, including rich red, which is a metallic, some standard red cardstock, and then also green and white as well. I'm also going to die cut this A2 marquee die from Simon Says Stamp. This is a really wonderful basic die set that is great for adding that really fun dot detail around your panels. We're going to take one of the outline pieces of the Snowflake Sensation and we're going to layer this into the middle of our A2 marquee die cut. This is just slightly smaller than a standard A2 card, so you get a really nice trim around the edges. I'm taping this in place with a very low tack tape, so that way I can remove it and still use this outline edge. So we're going to use this first though as a guide for placing all of the little negative pieces from the Snowflake Sensation die cut. When I die cut these, I saved all of the inner pieces so that I could piece them back together to form a mosaic, which looks so cool. So I started with the green and I used those in all the areas that have a leaf shape. Then the red I'm going to use for this teardrop. I think that would look really pretty. And then I'm going to take all of those snowflakes and I'm actually going to layer these up to form a cluster. Starting first with green, then I brought in the red, and this is the metallic version of the red. And then I brought in the white, and that's going to be the top layer of my snowflake. This grouping of snowflakes is going to create this really cool effect where you have them layered together and you can see all of the colors underneath of your top piece. I wanted it to be subtle, so I kept the white as the top layer and then the red and the green are going to be underneath because I've already used the red and green colors on the rest of the cards. So this is going to just accent and pull some of that color in together, but it still creates such a really neat effect. Now I'm using that Snowflake Sensation outline to help me guide my layered snowflakes into place. I've got 3 of them, so I did all 3 the same way. They're different sizes. You've got the 2 smaller ones on the left and right, and then the big one is in the middle. And this snowflake outline is just helping me figure out the right placement for each of them. So I use that to put my glue down, and then I can bring in my snowflakes and just kind of eyeball it from there. So this is creating such a cool cluster, and we're going to enhance this a bit with some gems. I'm bringing in Simon Says Stamp's Positively Dazzling gems in both clear and also cherry. And I'm going to lay these around the different parts of the snowflakes, continuing with that triangular pattern. And I also did add a few into the centers of the snowflakes. Those are the red ones. The clear ones I used on the outer edges. This is creating such a really pretty, dazzling effect. I really like how it feels like a beautiful adornment on the project. Now I did add a sentiment, and I'll show you how I did that along with the ribbon. But first I want to show you the next project and how I assembled that one. We'll do the sentiments and the trims at the very end. So the piece card, I really wanted to create. This was the card that I had the idea for first. But it then kind of morphed into a 2-card project, and that's why we ended up having the fun little cluster of snowflakes for my other card. So for the piece card, this is where I had die cut all of my elements, and I wasn't sure what colors I wanted to use. That's why I had also die cut the green. So I had the red, the green, and the white. In the end, I decided to go for more of a red and white theme, kind of like a peppermint. And the reason I had so many little inner pieces for my die cuts was because I had cut a whole bunch of each of them. So I am going to stack 2 of the solid red colors. These are just standard red cardstock. I'm stacking 2 of those die cuts together, and then I'm going to top that off with one of the shiny red ones. This is from the rich red metallic cardstock. That's going to get layered up on top to finish off this stack. So that way when you look at it from the side, you see the beautiful red cardstock and not just white. So I'm going to use Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue to help me glue all of these pieces together. This glue is great for adhering die cuts because it does dry clear, so if you have any glue that squishes out the sides, you never notice, and it's really fantastic for that kind of stuff. And then for the white, that's just plain old white cardstock. I didn't do anything fancy for this one. I just wanted some beautiful bright white, and this is Simon Says Stamp 120-pound white cardstock. And that's the same cardstock I used, which are pre-made card bases, for my card base for this card. So this is a top folding A2 card from Simon's 120 collection. So I'm going to now glue my 2 pieces. These are the 2 groupings of the outlines of the Snowflake Sensation. I'm gluing these vertically on my card. So I'm going to lay these down, and again, because we're using Craft Tacky Glue, if I have any glue that's coming outside of the edges, that's totally fine. I'm holding these down with a clear block so that way they have a chance to bond to my cardstock, and then that will make sure that they're nice and flat on my card. So I have my red one at the top, and then the white is at the bottom. And then I brought in those little corner pieces, and I also glued those onto my card. These I did not stack with anything. I wanted them to be a little less dimensional than the ones in the middle. So these are just going to get glued as one layer directly to the card. I put the 2 white ones at the top and then the 2 red ones at the bottom. I'm trying to have a reverse here. So red's at the top, and then there's also some red at the bottom. White at the bottom, a little bit of white at the top. And we're going to do the same thing when I bring in some dazzling gems. I tried to use the same products across both cards, so that way I didn't have to have a ton of supplies for each. This helps make sure that when you're making multiple cards that you don't have an overwhelming amount of pieces and supplies laying across your desk. Helps control the chaos just a little bit. So here are the gems. I'm going to use white in the red areas, and then I'm going to use red gems in the white areas. This is creating that flip-flop and reverse effect, which looks really neat. I'm using the same Craft Tacky Glue across all of the adhesive here, just so that way it's really simple and easy to glue everything together. I love the dazzling gems because they have such a beautiful way of catching the light. They are not your standard gems, so they really make a beautiful embellishment on projects like this. And to help me pick these up, I am using my Simon Says Stamp Place and Score tool. The wax tip on this tool really works well for picking up the gems. Alright, so here we go. We have our card ready to go. Now we need to work on our sentiments. I'm going to bring in this brand new Easy Strips die, which coordinates with some also new Easy Strips sentiment strips from Simon Says Stamp. These are so fun because you get all of these sentiments on the sentiment strips, but the die cuts them out all at once for you. So you don't have to go through and trim off each of these one at a time as you have done for other sentiment strip sets. These easy strips are so fantastic. So I cut both the black and also the white just because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to go with at first. And then I finally decided on using one of the black ones to create a foiled sentiment. So I'm bringing in my Gina K fuse system and a carrier sheet from Gina. I'm using gold foil, and I'm going to run this through my fuse. I'm using the heat setting of 3. I find this works really nice on the sentiment strips for me. And this is going to give me a beautiful gold sentiment that'll match perfectly with a die cut greeting. So this says at Christmas time. This is from the Joy collection. So this is the Joy Easy Strips set. I'm pairing this with this Peace Greeting that's from Simon Says Stamp's Fancy Piece die set. It comes with not only the sentiment, but also the outline as well. I've die cut that from some white cardstock, but also some rich red as well to coordinate with the theme that we have going on here. This large greeting is going to look gorgeous sitting in the center of our little medallions here. I did not pop up the Peace Greeting with some extra die cuts underneath. I just simply glued that first layer right down onto the shadow. And then for the sentiment, I'm going to adhere it to my card using a couple pieces of Simon Says Stamp foam squares. The little At Christmas Time greeting is going to get adhered underneath on top of the peace sentiment, right where the A comes down and forms that fun loop. I just used some craft tacky glue on the sentiment strip to attach that down. I did decide to add a couple more gems in a few spots just to embellish things a bit more. I really wanted to make sure that it had a medallion feel for this project. And so those gems are really adding a nice bit of embellishment. For my other card, I'm going to use this brand new Christmas Cheer stamp set. This came out in the DieCember card kit, but it's also part of the DieCember release as well. I'm going to stamp that sentiment onto some Schoolhouse Red cardstock. I did prep it with a powder tool prior to stamping because I am using embossing ink, and this embossing ink is going to help me pick up my white embossing powder. So I'll have the white embossing powder on top of the red cardstock. Using my heat tool, I'll set that, and then I'm going to use the coordinating Christmas Cheer dies to cut the sentiment out. So this is going to get popped up underneath of my Snowflake Sensation medallions here. I'm going to use some foam strips to help me do that. And I'm just going to layer this right underneath the larger snowflake. Now I want to add a bit of trim around the top corners of my card. You don't have to do this, but I thought this would be a fun little embellishment, and I love adding ribbon for the holidays. So I'm going to attach this ribbon down on the two corners, actually just with some washi tape. It holds it really well. And then I'm going to wrap the other end around. I want this to be following the same angle as the snowflakes, so I want to make sure as I'm doing this that I have the angle correct, follows the same line. And I'll do the same thing for the other side. I'll just tape that trim in place so that way I have the same angle on the other side as well. And I did tie a bow off camera. This little bow I'm going to glue down with some red line tape from Simon Says Stamp. This tape holds basically anything. It's a really strong adhesive, and I love how it works for ribbons and trims. I don't have to use any hot glue or wait for liquid glue to dry. It's a really convenient adhesive. So I glued that onto one side of the trims so that way it forms a nice little bow. And then this is going to get popped up onto some midnight green cardstock. This is actually a card-based set that Simon has come out with, and it matches their midnight green cardstock. I love it. It's a beautiful color. And so this is going to complete my two cards that I got from one session of die cutting. I love when I can make more than one card with all of that work. So this created a really nice duo of projects. These would make a great gift set too if you wanted to make a bunch of these and then have these as a collection of cards that someone could have for the holidays. I love that. So both of these cards, like I said, use new products from Simon Says Stamp's DieCember collection. If you wanted to see how you could use some of these products, hopefully this is inspiring you. And you could also create similar effects with other dies in your stash. If you have a medallion die or a cluster die like this, you could easily create a similar effect. Or if you weren't interested in creating more of a Christmas set of projects, you could change up the colors and make these more wintry and then have them as birthday cards or thinking of you. Lots of ways that you could look at this project. You don't have to make them as Christmas cards, and you don't have to make them in the same colors that I did. But I hope no matter what, you were inspired by the cards that I've shared today and that you got some ideas on how you can use something from this video in your next crafty projects. So thanks so much for tuning in today. Again, all of the links for the things that I've used today and things that I've mentioned, such as the blog party for Simon Says Stamp's DieCember collection, you can find all of that down in the video description and on my blog. Thanks for tuning in today, friends. I'll be back soon with more to share. But until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.